Well, right around the corner, it is the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys!
Mission problems inside the car, and that can't be seriously.
Anything.
What is this? 2:30 in the morning in Belgium. What's that?
If you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
Well, I just thought I'm going to go through a list today of the last 10 years of the 24 Hours of Le Mans and, well, rank them from worst to best, and we'll see what I come up with and my reasons for them. So, starting with 2014. What actually happened? Well, in the year itself, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie got married. You had that Kermit the Frog meanwhile drinking the tea, and then you also had the sexy fella meme. And I can't stop staring at him. Anyway, so Toyota were probably the ones looking favourites going into that year, with the number 7 car being on the pole position, and then the highest of the Audis only qualifying in 5th position. But this was a race that was pretty interesting because of the mix of, well, most of the time at Le Mans, the wet and dry conditions. Obviously, you had that, you see it in every kind of crash compilation for the event, the down the Mulsanne straight, you had the incident with the Toyota the Toyota number 8 and the Audi number 3 getting involved with some GT3 cars on the straight and having that kind of little massive melee of damage, and that took out probably Audi's strongest car in the qualifying sessions as well. Then in the ninth hour of the race, you had the number 7 Toyota go out of the race, and then the actual eventual winner, the number 2 Audi, went into the garage at one stage as well. And then the 20 Porsche, which was leading the race kind of on the Sunday, then itself had a broken anti-roll bar, which then put that out of the lead of the race, which then gave it back to the number 2 Audi. So it is one of those kind of mid 2010s kind of Le Mans where it's kind of like, just get the car to end and you're probably going to get a decent result. So, and also it's a nice one as well because it's Audi's last victory there. It's kind of, it's the last hurrah of what was a pretty phenomenal kind of 14 year period of dominance at the event. Really only Peugeot, Bentley, and then after this year, Porsche, being the biggest threats to what really was one of the greatest probably teams in the World Endurance Championship and at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So if I had to put this into the tier list, I would probably put this race, if I can find it, there it is, I'd probably put it into an A tier. It is an enjoyable race, but probably not, but it's still a good race. So 2015. What happened in 2015? Well, Jeremy Clarkson punched someone. David Cameron made it in for another general election, and Sepp Blatter resigned from FIFA. So yeah, eventful year outside of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But look what happened in the race. Well, to begin with, in qualifying, it was Porsche just kind of showed up and was like, yeah, no, we're just going to boss this, and basically locked out the first 3 positions with their 3 cars, led by the 18, then the 17, then the 19 car, and, well, yeah, just kind of showed up and was like, we've got this. It was an eventful race this year. You had the 8 Audi being taken out during the safety car period. You had the 18 Porsche outbreaking himself in the light stage and going straight on at the end of the Mulsanne straight. And in the end, the winners were very familiar driver names now, but Nico Hülkenberg, Earl Bamber, and Nick Tandy. And, all big kind of GT racing names and obviously Formula 1 names with Hülkenberg. But they were all rookies to this event. It was not one you really... I don't think they were the top guys that maybe Porsche probably expected would be bringing this home for them. They were kind of having a fight with the number 7 Audi, trading places with them throughout the race, but it fell away after a drive-through penalty with 5 hours to go in the race after disrespecting a slow lane, and then had to go in a garage 3 hours from the end of the race, so it kind of deteriorated from them. So, so it was a pretty interesting race, and really a fight throughout probably Nico Hulkenberg's biggest achievement in his racing career. I don't mean that actually, no, it's not disrespectful because it's Le Mans, but like obviously he hasn't got that win in Formula One, and so to really do Le Mans on your first attempt is insanely impressive. So I don't think I'm going to put in the B tier. I think for this one, and then you had 2016, and nothing happened in 2016. We don't like. I think it was a pretty boring race. Nothing happened right near the end that we need to talk about. I don't think nothing happened. Anyway, in 2016, Leicester won the Premier League. Donald Trump became president, and we left the EU. So yeah, it was a year, and well, the Le Mans that year couldn't have been. We don't need to really talk about it, really, do we? Because we all know it's an S tier. Because it is. It's just that. It's that good. So really, for this one, it's just the end of the race you have to talk about. Everything before that, I know it sounds cliche. Is that the right word? I don't know, but it's just it's the moment. It's the moment. It's the moment that really, I mean, everyone must go to as like one of, well, not the greatest moments, because it's not great if you work for Toyota, but it's just shocking. It really showed. It just shows the challenge what the race is. You can't accept you've won really until you've crossed the finish line there, because it's just anything can happen. And obviously, we saw it a few years later as well in the I think it was in the LMP2 class with the WRT cars as well, then breaking down with a couple laps to go. But yeah, just Toyota in the top class. All the world's eyes on them at that point in the race, because it's right at the end. You'll get the most eyes on you at the start and the end of the race, and yeah, it's just phenomenal. Yeah, you had the number 6 car trying to chase down the Porsche that was chasing the number 5 Toyota, which spun off at karting, which then really put that car out of contention for the race win. And then, literally no time left in the race, the Toyota stops on the start-finish line. And the number 1 Porsche, you see it just come out of the final chicane and just drive straight on by after really it looking like Toyota's to lose. And it was theirs to lose in the end. So, and it was probably a massive shock to, the drivers being Mark Lieb, Roman Dimas, and Neil Jani, and it's the moment that you kind of just you know where you were when it happened. It's just so unpredictable, and as I said earlier, there's only one place you can put in it is in the S tier, because it's just phenomenal. That's the only way of putting it. Just unbelievable. So 2017. What happened in 2017? Well, there was the Fire Festival. You had Kendall Jenner trying to solve world peace with a Pepsi, and you had Harry and Meghan Markle getting engaged. So yeah, and this was the year for Toyota to get their revenge, but it didn't happen. So to start off their year in revenge, Toyota came with 3 cars, but and Porsche also had 3 cars, but at this point Audi had gone peace out and had left, which wasn't great, but anyway, so it was really just a fight of the 2 manufacturers, and sadly this was Porsche's last year as well. But anyway, back to the good race, the good racing. Toyota locked out the front rows with Conway, Kobayashi, and Sarrazin on the front of starting on pole for the Japanese brand, so it was looking good. But it was looking good early on in the race as well, when the number 2 Porsche had to come into the pit lane as it suffered with a hybrid issue. But then it got to the night time and it didn't go to plan for poor Toyota at all, with the Nate 8 going into the garage after a pit stop during the night, trying to restart, but just didn't move, so then that had gone. Then number 7 also went out the race with a weird issue with the clutch shaft when it was trying to leave the pit lane. I believe that Algarve mechanic gave him a thumbs up. He thought it was and it was, I think it was during a safety car period. The Toyota thought that meant go, even though the light was red, and then I think there was all occasion the end of the pit lane, which basically ruined the clutch of the car, gave the car no drive, and that really scuppered that car's hopes. And then the sole survivor, the number 9 car, had an incident with the manor, which I think was while Lapierre was at the wheel of that car. Basically, I think it was the whole left-hand rear side of the body panel was gone. Tried to get the car back to the pit lane, but that ended its race with around 11 hours in. So that was it. But then this is where it got very interesting. The number 1 Porsche then stopped on circuit, and that was another hybrid issue, and then that car went out the race. And that's basically all the cars. So at this point, the Jackie Chan DC Racing Orica, the LMP2, briefly led the race until with 2 hours to go. The number 2 Porsche that started the race in the pit lane, showing why you should never give up, overtook it and ended up winning. So it was another. I think it's another. Is it an S tier? I think it is. I'm going to say it's an S tier because it's Porsche's last win at the race before they left as well. And yeah, I think it is to have an LMP2 leading at that stage. Like, wow, it's like not something I don't think many people would have predicted at that point. And then I always kind of left me in the years afterwards when it was just Toyota, kind of hoping that we'd have something like that again. But sadly, Toyota just from that point, I think, had learned and were very consistent over the next couple of years, well, until really now. But yeah, I'm going to give that an S tier because LMP2 leading the race is just insane, and it also was another kind of one of those, as I mentioned earlier, mid 2010s. Just get the car to the end, and you might get a decent result. So perhaps maybe controversially probably from 2018 to 2022, I'm going to put the races in D tier, which might be a bit controversial, but it's just Toyota. It was just Toyota against Toyota. The privateers never really gave that much of a threat throughout the years. It was always just kind of Toyota doing Toyota things. It was them against, well, you could say Alpine's not a privateer, but it grandfathered LMP1, and then as well you had Rebellion, SMP, Glickenhaus, Ginetta for a brief period, and no one was really able to. It was Toyota. They just kind of bossed it and didn't have. They just had to finish, but really they always had the pace, and it was never really in doubt over those years. So, and that's why we call this new era, it's the new golden age, because it's brought better racing with it. So yeah, I'm going to put that kind of 4-year period between into the D tier. But I think now 2023, which we'll go into now, I think is a new golden age. Well, in 2023, you had the Chinese spy balloon over America. You had the Eurovision Song Contest being held in the UK, and they announced GTA 6, which is great. But anyway, going back to the 24-hour Le Mans, as I previously mentioned, my goodness, the golden age. You had, well, sorry if I forget any here, but you had Cadillac, you had Ferrari, you had Peugeot, you had Toyota, you had Van Wall. Probably not the same. Yeah, probably not the same kind of level as some of the other ones I just mentioned, but they were there. But yeah, it was a great race. One first Le Mans I attended since 2009, so that was cool, and might mean I'm a bit biased towards it, but yeah, it was a good race. The kind of one that was a lot of changing conditions, wet, dry, really throughout the race, which helped. I remember it helping the Peugeots a lot. They really seemed to like the conditions. It didn't suit the Cadillacs as well. Both of them kind of had big moments in the wet-ish conditions. You had Jack Aitken going off really right at the start of the chicane, exiting the first Mulsanne chicane. You had Sebastian Bourdais having his little pirouette when the second rainstorm came, and loads of cars being wiped out by that storm because it kind of just dropped and caught a lot of teams out. And as well, you had everyone, kind of all sorts of teams leading. You had the 38 Jota Porsche leading the race for a bit before that car went off the road, ripped the whole rear end of the car off. And as well, kind of near the end of the race, actually no, going into tonight, we'll talk about it. The Peugeots were doing well. Then obviously that went off the road, and then just before that as well, the 51 Ferrari, which eventually won the race, was off the road. I think at one of the Mulsanne chicanes, and then as well you had then at the end of the race you had the battle between the 8 Toyota and the 51 Ferrari. And actually, I also forgot to mention as well, 7 Toyota going out in the night, which was kind of unbelievable considering how consistent they'd been over the last 4 years. But then, yeah, you had the fight between the 51 Ferrari and the 8 Toyota, which ended up with the 8 Toyota ended up off the road, locking up while trying to chase down the 51 car, actually locking up particularly at Arnage. So, yeah, and then in the end, Ferrari, first year back, and a win. So yeah, a lot of different cars. I mean, it was the main probably favourites in the end that did win the race, but I wouldn't say that's because they were better than everyone else. Well, actually, they were better than everyone else because they finished ahead of them. But it was kind of, again, even though it wasn't really probably as based on, it wasn't based as much on the car failing, more mistakes coming from the drivers within this one meant that these guys stayed at the front of the field. So in the end, I'd say this is probably another S tier. I don't know if this is me being too generous again, but it was a great race, and really probably one of the, I think because of the amount of manufacturers won't probably, even based off qualifying as well and stuff, we probably weren't predicting it, but it was probably one of the harder races to predict who was going to win at each stage because there was a lot of stuff happening. Well, I hope you enjoyed this Le Mans video. Check out some more on our channel. Remember to like and subscribe, and well, hopefully we'll see you again in the next one. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.